guys, I'm back, and by this point you've seen the very short flight video, which again, lots of crashes. This is still quite a fast quadcopter, so flying it indoors in a very small apartment, 700 square feet, if you count the bedroom, then it's still kind of a tough deal to do. So I'm still getting used to something with this kind of speed for the apartment. But what I'll say is I'm kind of loving this. I mean, it's pretty darn fast. You get a good, 3.5, 4 minutes of flight time, which isn't the best, but it's great for a brushed quadcopter. Usually with brushed quadcopters, especially micros like this, you get very, very short flight times. I know that for a fact, given that my Aurora 68, gets 3 minutes if you're flying it hard. So this isn't bad. It's heavier. It's very durable. I mean, I've crashed it a lot, and I can't even tell a single place where I've crashed it. The only thing that does happen is every once in a while, somehow a prop will get bent because they do stick out just a tiny bit above the ducts, which I kind of wish they had fixed that. I wish they had made them so that the ducts completely protected them, especially in a crash when you crash upside down. But they didn't do that. Can't really fault them too much on that, since I'm sure they're not expecting a ton of people to be flying them in such proximity as I am here in my apartment. But overall, I'm really liking this. I think it's a pretty damn cool quadcopter. It's pretty fast, powerful. These little 1102 motors are pretty impressive. I know they're the same ones or similar in kV and power output than the ones that come in the Aurora 68, but I figured because it was going to be heavier, they were going to feel slower. But no, they hang, and these props are pretty durable. Even though I've crashed it a lot, like I said, they bend. You can just bend them right back, and you're good to go. One thing I did notice is, and I'm sure that this happened. I mean, I know this happens with pretty much any quad. You can have a bad enough crash where by crashing you'll end up messing with one of the motors. And I noticed that with one of these, it comes and goes, but you could kind of feel the bearing. That one, yeah, kind of feel the bearings must have had some slight damage, or maybe one of the little magnets isn't perfectly aligned, which you can sometimes fix by opening up the bell and re-gluing the magnet with super glue or similar. I've done that before with bigger motors. Never done it with something this tiny, but it still flies. I'm gonna fly it until that motor actually dies. Hopefully it doesn't kill the ESC, which would be a bigger deal. But I think really, like, these little tiny motors won't draw enough amps to burn that ESC out. At least that's what I'm hoping. In the video that you're going to see for the flight, or that you already saw for the flight, I didn't have my VTX outputting in the best frequency for my goggles, and I played around with the goggles a little bit, but I was too lazy to look through all of the 48 channels or whatever this has. So please forgive me for the breakup. It didn't look nearly as bad when I was flying it. Obviously DVR always shows everything more because it somehow grabs it better than your eyes do. So it's gonna look horrible. So that's it for the quad. I really recommend it. I really appreciate that you could fly with this. Obviously this is still kind of more toyish, not quite hobby grade, not quite or nowhere near what the Tyrannus is, but the Tyrannus by itself costs more than this entire package does, even on sale. So for what it is, the fact that this lets you do Open-TX and does allow you to change things in here fairly easily, this is not a bad deal at all. I think you can get it on sale for about $140 in total US dollars. So I recommend it. If you want to fly something, you want to get used to sort of this micro-brushed way to go. Now that these are becoming so popular, I think this is a winner. This is very professional, very, very, very nice. Really, shout out to DYS for doing such an awesome job with something like this. Very, very straightforward, flies right out of the box. Obviously, if you have a specific way of flying, you're going to want to mess around with the expo and things in here, because they have a good deal of expo for aileron, rudder, and elevator. And you're going to want to tweak that down so that it doesn't feel as sluggish. But I think they do it because they know that if you don't have a very fine touch, people will crash this because it does react pretty much as quickly as you want it to. Since I'm used to flying them more, for me, it was too much. So what I'm going to do is, I'm probably going to fly this more often with my Tyrannus, but I do appreciate that it comes with this, and I'm probably going to be using this when I want to just kind of throw something in my backpack real quick. I'll throw in this, I'll throw in, you know, my cheapo goggles, my old Fat Shark attitudes or something, and then I can go out and fly without worrying about, oh, you know, I have all this expensive equipment with me. You know, if you count how much these cost by themselves, usually these by themselves, you know, a micro brushed of this size, micro brushed quadcopter this size is running usually around 120, 130. So the fact that you can get this whole thing, you know, in between 140 and 160, and you get a full Open-TX, you know, receiver with it, transmitter with it, that's a steal. I mean, really, you know, when people ask me what they should get to get started, I'm probably going to recommend this as a package and then tell them to get, you know, an Eachine E010S or something as a, you know, learning and how to fly and indoors and stuff. But this package is amazing. All right, so enough of this as a package. The other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, and I know this video is already way longer than it should be, but I really wanted to talk more about this TX because I haven't seen a lot of people really delve deep inside of it and talk about, you know, what it has, what it can do, what it can't do, and that type of thing. So I've already opened this. At the end of the video, I'm gonna put pictures of the inside so you can see what's inside. And for people who know better than me, you might be able to find the place where you can flash this with updated firmware, or to add multi-protocol modules, that type of thing. I don't know how to do it. I looked inside, I couldn't tell easy ways to plug stuff in. It does not have USB, it does not have JR plugs, it doesn't have anything other than what it comes with for what it is inside. So that's a bummer. I really wish there was a USB out so that you could use this even as a trainer for, you know, DRL or hot props or any of those simulators, but it doesn't, unfortunately. So that's really kind of a shame. And yeah, but talking about this, so one of the coolest things about it, other than the Open-TX, is that because it does come with a D8R protocol, you can bind it to a lot more things than just the DYS Elf, which is awesome. This is, I think, the first FRSKY compatible, you know, transmitter in this sort of package, this sort of size and price. So this is super exciting. Again, the gimbals aren't the best. They are a little laggy. They don't have a ton of resolution. If you do a fast punch out, sometimes it, you know, it takes a little while for the crappy gimbal to read and put it through. So that's why, you know, I took the expo down, because it already sort of does some of that for you. But it works. I mean, it flies anything with the D8 protocol, which is really freaking awesome. There's a ton of bind and fly quads that have that. So looking at it, it's all plastic. It feels solid in your hand. All of these feel just as solid or more than on the Tyrannus. And one thing is, if you don't like these, so for example, like I'm used to using game pads, like, you know, the PlayStation style DualShock controllers, and these feel not too dissimilar to that in terms of how they feel in your hand. but they do come with these sort of gimbal sticks, which allow you to do pinching if you're a pincher. This feels comfortable in my hand. Pinching, you can do full range. It doesn't feel awkward like it does sometimes with the Tyrannus. So you can do pretty much everything, either as a thumb person, or you could do a hybrid, you know, whatever works. But if you don't like how those feel on your fingers, to me they feel really good. These are actually metal, these are not plastic. They're aluminum, iodized in aluminum. But what's cool is that they're unscrewable. So any M3 stick ends, you can use in there. You can do the other ones that are, you know, spiky, or you can do the ones that are more like a game controller, so that they feel even nicer. It's nice. It's a nice little feature that not a lot of other toy type grade controllers have. Next thing, turning it on. So one of the things I noticed is I wanted to fly this with a traditional TAER way to go. That's the way that, you know, my Tyrannus is set up. I have all my quads set up that way, and this comes in AETR mode, which is more akin to, I think, what Spectrum does, and I'm sure they do it for a reason. It was probably easier for them to do it this way, but that was really annoying to me. I don't want to have to switch over all of my other quads just so that I could use this like I want to use it. So what you can do in here is, and this is a quirk, so I'll show you in a second, but what you can do in here is you press enter, you go to channel map, and in there it allows you to actually change how the channels are mapped. So I changed it so that channel 1 for me is throttle, channel 2 is aileron, channel 3 is elevator, and channel 4 is rudder. And that is the standard way that the Tyrannus and most quads come set up nowadays. You can go into betaflight and change both the setting for your DYS Elf to match this if you want. Alright, so like I was saying, so you can either switch your DYS to match this new channel configuration and also match your Tyrannus if you don't want to change the Tyrannus for this, etc., etc. It goes either way. And if you have other quads that already use the Tyrannus protocol, the FRSKY style TAER, then you can do it this way. And so you can map it however you really want. And then what you do to do that is enter moves it sideways, up and down is up and down. Sorry, I hope that shows. Let's see, does it show? Can you see it? All right, so up and down. And then the return key, if you press it once, it'll switch, it'll highlight it. And if you want to get out of here so you can save it, you hold that long and it gets you out of there. Now, you can also do mixing if you wanted to do it that way. I find that to be a huge pain in the ass to set all of the parameters correctly, so channel mapping to me is probably the easiest. And so through this you can see already that if you look at it, it's wrong. So it's still going to think that this is your throttle. But don't worry, if you have this to the right channel, it's fine. As long as you read that this is doing what you want it to do and that everything is still working, you're good. So you can monitor your channels. You can reverse any of those if you want. You know, if you're one of those folks that used to flying planes or other things, you can reverse things so that it's more comfortable to you. You can change expos and also rates through here. I have it now just to be, you know, rate of 1 essentially, and really pretty much no expo for all the channels, because it comes with, I think, default 30 of expo, which is fine, but not for me. It's really, I think, if you're a beginner, it's going to help you out. And yeah, so if you go into setup, it lets you bind to anything with a D8. It lets you turn on if you want it to sound when it says things or not. I had it on, but it doesn't really matter. And you can reset it if you really want to, but I don't, because I just took the time to set it all up. Now, one of the things you're gonna notice is that when you do that, one of the most frustrating things is that it's gonna continue thinking that because this was originally mapped, here and here, etc., it's gonna think this is your throttle. It's not. So when you're doing that, it's really gonna be showing you the percentage pitch, which is not a problem, but kind of a pain in the ass, because then you can't see that it's throttle. And because it thinks that that's throttle, then if you want to go into the menu, you're like going to sit here and you're going to be pressing, you're like, what's going on? You have to hold it down and press enter. It's a pain, but it does allow you to, again, use this at least more comfortably for me with everything else that's already set up TAER. So that's a tip and trick of the trade that I found. Now, like I mentioned, what's cool is that now that you have it set up that way, if you have any other quad, for example, here's my little Eachine X100 or Q100, I forget what it's called, QX100, I don't remember. In any case, this is kind of one of those things that I use as a test rig because it's pretty durable. I added a second layer of body to the bottom because these arms do break easily. But this has been a nice little test rig. It's been pretty solid. So when I want to test out whether something's working on my receivers or a new propeller or that type of thing, I often put it on this. But to cut it short, what I want to talk about is how you can bind this. So what you have to do is you'll go in here, you'll put your battery in, and if you have any of these micro D8, this one's an S plus one, but you have micro D8 FRSKY receivers, what you're going to do is you're going to turn this on, you're going to turn on your transmitter. You're going to do that if you have to do it like me. And you're going to go into setup, and you're going to plug this in before you plug this in, rather. You're going to hold the bind button, and that works for pretty much any D8 controller with a bind button. Receiver with a bind button. So you can hold it. I hate trying to do this on camera. It's the worst because it's such a pain in the butt. You need 3 hands to do this right. So let's see, I'm holding it and I am plugging this in. Sorry guys. There you go. So once I've plugged it in and I'm still holding this button, you can go into bind. You can let go of the button. It's gonna bind and it turns off when it shows you that you're bound. At that point you can turn this off, unplug. I always like to do it this way just so that I know for sure that it's working. So you plug it back in, you don't have to hold the bind button again. Plug it back in, turn on your transmitter. Sorry, trying to get it all in shot. Our transmitter. Then if you have it set up in betaflight so that this is your arm button, that's another thing you have to do is you have to make sure that all of these match the quadcopter. So I always have my arm on that one anyway on channel 5 for any of my quads. So for me, all I have to do is then do that. You can see the little red light at the bottom. I'll turn it off again so you can see. Turn it off. Hopefully you can see down there. So down there, if you look down there, red light, armed. So there you go. So like you can see, it works, and that works with any D8 protocol quad. So I'm super excited about this. I think it's going to be an awesome new model to have. So just to cap off this video, so I do think that this thing is a bargain. The DYS Elf 83, I'll put a link in the description. It's been awesome. I think, as a package, you really can't go wrong. I mean, this is a huge step up from most other protocols for toy quads. I fly pretty much exclusively with my Tyrannus and the Open-TX FRSKY protocol because it's so reliable and it's so awesome in terms of relaying information and having your quad stay, you know, as it fly as it should be, and customizability, etc. That really I've been excited for a very long time, and I think if they'd come out with this years ago, I don't think FRSKY would have any competition because you know, having this as opposed to something like the FlySky FSI6 or whatever, which is not a bad controller. I don't want to talk bad about that transmitter. I have gotten to play with it, but I think it limits you, and I think this, you know, this is awesome. It feels really good. You know, I think if you're considering getting the Turnigy Evolution, which I've heard amazing things about, but it's just too out of price range, or you don't want to pay the $30 shipping for it to come to you from Hong Kong or wherever Hobby King is shipping from. This is this is nice because you get this and this, and you don't have to switch up all of your receivers. And you know, you don't need a big screen over here. You don't need really anything other than you know, sort of a very simple setup, knowing that it's working, knowing that you have enough switches to set up modes and rates and all that. So this to me is what really sells this. And don't get me wrong, this is amazing because it's so professional and so smooth and just feels nice in your hands and feels solid. And like I said, I've crashed this a lot, and if you look at it even on closest inspection, you can't tell how much I've crashed this, which is a lot. So you know, no secret there that I'm gonna be a fan of this, and I really want to I'm looking forward to flying this outside because it's gonna be awesome. In any case, I recommend this to you guys if you haven't already. You know, I would love if you show me some support, some love, and like and subscribe to my channel. It's gonna help me create more content. It's gonna help me keep growing this channel, which I've loved. And thank you guys for watching, and get one of these.